guys! We're gonna make some buttermilk biscuits. This is a very traditional vintage recipe, but it's very easy. You'll just need a few ingredients: 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, a 1/2 cup of cold grass-fed butter, a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a cup of buttermilk. We're just gonna start by adding the flour, baking powder, and salt to a bowl and mix it until it's combined. We're gonna set this aside and move on to cutting the butter. We want to slice the butter and then cut it into cubes. So you just want little cube-like pieces. Then we're just gonna add the butter to the flour. And you'll just want to use a pastry cutter and start working the butter into the flour. If you don't have one of these, you can always use your fingers to work the butter into the flour. Or if you're like me, I get tired of using this and always just end up using my hands. We want to work the butter into the flour until there's like pea-sized pieces of the butter left. So you want it pretty incorporated. It should look kind of grainy like this. Now we'll add the buttermilk and we'll stir it into the flour mixture until it's absorbed or combined. If your biscuit dough seems a little bit too wet, you can always add just a touch of flour to it. Now we're going to turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface. Your dough will be quite sticky, but you don't want it to be wet. We also want to make sure we kind of flour our fingers before touching the dough because it will stick quite a bit if we don't. We're just going to turn it out onto the floured surface, like I said, and we're going to shape it into a rough square shape. Now we're going to cut this into 12 pieces. We're rolling this into a ball about a 1/2 inch thick. This should look kind of like this. Now I've got a baking sheet and we're going to go ahead and put these on here. But there is a trick. So if you want your biscuits to have crispier edges, you want to kind of spread them further apart. If you like them softer, keep them closer together on the pan. I like them softer, so we're going to keep them pretty close. Once we get these on the pan, we're going to put it in the oven at 218 degrees Celsius or 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I almost forgot one of the most delicious parts. So we're gonna melt about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of butter, depending on how much you want. We're gonna melt it and then we're just gonna brush the tops of the biscuits with it right before putting it in the oven. Now we're ready to put them in the oven. Here we have our biscuits, and you can easily make bigger biscuits if you like, just by cutting them into fewer pieces. These were left in the oven for 17 minutes. Usually 17 to 20 minutes is that sweet spot. Obviously, if you cut them into fewer pieces and you do have bigger biscuits, it might take a little bit longer in the oven. Thank you guys for watching. If you happen to like this video or found it interesting, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future content. If you have any questions, comments, or if you happen to make this recipe, let me know in the comments below. Cheerio and drasta.